Hi everybody, this is Lisa, and it's time again for another Verbling class. And in this hour, we're going to be having a reading class. So if you are interested in practicing reading out loud and also discussing an article, then this will be a good class for you. Hi there, Hamid.
Hi, teacher.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Great. All right, and welcome to everybody. If you have your reservation, you can go ahead and get that now. Otherwise, you'll be able to see the Join Class button, and you can click on the Join Class button. I put the link. Somebody, I think, has the Verbling window open. If you close the Verbling window, then you won't hear my echo. So just have the Google Hangouts window open, but close the Verbling window. Okay? That's better. All right, so I'm going to put the link. That's the link. It's in the Verbling chat. This is the article that we're going to read. And it's from the National Geographic website. National Geographic is a popular magazine here in the United States, and it has articles about lots of different topics, but mostly cultural, about the world, about science, geography, and National Geographic articles are generally well written. And so if you are a person that's interested in exposing yourself to a little bit higher level reading and also somewhat academic reading, then National Geographic can be a good choice. And they have a lot of articles online for free on their website. And so I took one off of there and I put it into this Google document so we can read this together today. It's actually about happiness and ranking countries in a certain way, and I guess this is done every year, so we're going to read about that. And then after we finish, we can talk about it and talk about our own countries and what we think about this article and if we agree or disagree or have some other thoughts. So in this class, you will be listening to me read. You will be reading out loud. Each person is going to have a turn, and then we will be speaking, discussing a little bit the article. Okay, so let me just say hi to everybody. Make sure that your microphones are working. Hi, Aisha. How are you today?
Yeah,
hi,
good.
welcome. And Beatriz, how are you today?
Hi, thanks, and you?
I'm doing well, thank you. And Goliath, hi there.
Hi, Lisa. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you. And Hamid, I muted you before because I was hearing the background noise. So turn your microphone on again when you're ready to talk. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have your Verbling window open?
Yeah.
Okay. You can close your Verbling window. Just leave the Google Hangouts window open.
Okay.
Yeah, because it plays the video if you leave the Verbling window open. And hi, Javier. How are you?
Hey, hi, I'm good. You?
I'm doing well, thank you. And Otku, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you, teacher?
I'm doing well, thank you. And let's see, somebody's popping in and out. Oh, hi, Alexi. How are you? Hi there. Alexi?
Yes.
Hi there, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing great.
Okay.
Thank you for asking.
Sure. Okay, well, let's get started. I'm going to put the article in the screen share, my screen share. So if you want to, you can either open the document and have it on your desktop or your laptop, whatever you're working on. And you can, that's what I do, is I leave one window open with my Google Hangouts window, and then my other window is open with the document. And that seems to work pretty good. I switch back and forth. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have 8 people in the class. There should be room for one more. So if somebody is out there trying to get in, please let me know if you don't see the join class button or if it says it's full, because some people have been telling me that it says it's full with only 8 people in the class plus me. But it should be 9 people. So if you want to get in, go ahead and tell me whether or not you see that join class button. But you do need to have tickets which you can get different ways, but the best way is to just become a premium member. That way you get to have a lot of tickets and go to lots of classes. Okay? All right, so the way we do this is I will highlight a part that I'm going to read, and then I will ask somebody to read the same thing I just read again. So the first time when I'm reading it, that's the time for you to listen to me and how I'm pronouncing the words and just see if you can understand by just using your ears. You can also read along with your eyes, but it's really a good time to just listen as well to see if you hear the individual words and understand them. And then we'll have each student read, and I will go through some vocabulary that I think might be worthwhile for you guys to make sure you understand. Excuse me. Okay, so let's get started. The title of this article is called First Person. I think that means in National Geographic they have kind of like an ongoing theme where it's written in first person. So if you say that you're writing something in first person, that means you are writing it with I. So you said, I went to the store yesterday to buy something. You're telling the story as the first person rather than talking about somebody else, like she went to the store. Okay, so this is a guy writing about this, and he's writing, happiness is being an Aussie. So an Aussie is a person from Australia. And he says, yet again, Australia tops the list of happiest countries. And this guy is named Rolf Smith, and he's writing for National Geographic. All right. As I sit at our kitchen table on yet another unseasonably damp and chilly morning in Sussex, England, watching the rain streak down the window panes and listening to the dawn rush of traffic on our far too busy street, I find myself thinking longingly of my Australian passport. Okay, Aisha, why don't you read? Oh, Aisha dropped out. Uh-oh. Okay, Alexi, how about you read?
Yes. As I sit at our kitchen table on yet another unseasonably damp and chilly morning in Sussex, England, watching the rain streak down the window panes and listening to the down rush of traffic on our far too busy street, I find myself thinking longingly of my Australian passport.
Yes. So he's kind of setting the scene, and he's saying that he's in England, and this word right here, unseasonably, that means usually you expect that type of weather in the winter, damp, chilly, but when you get it in another season, like spring or summer especially, you would say unseasonably. So it's not supposed to be like that. So it's damp and chilly, and he's watching the rain on his window panes, and he's thinking longingly. When you think of something longingly, it's like you wish for it. You're thinking about it like, oh, I wish this would happen or that would happen. So he's thinking about his Australian passport, probably longing to return to Australia. All right, and also just to remind everybody, if there is a word or a phrase that you don't understand and you want me to explain it, please ask, and you can interrupt me at any time, okay? So if I miss something and I don't explain it and you want to know, just let me know.
Sorry,
Okay.
I have a question.
Sure.
I can't understand what does it mean in the first sentence, as I sit at our kitchen table on yet. On yet.
Yeah. So on yet another. Okay, so he's saying, as I sit at our kitchen table, and he's just saying on yet, like another. It's just kind of, the on yet is adding emphasis to another. He could have just left that out. He could have said, as I sit at our kitchen table, he could have said on another day, like on another day. So it's just saying, basically, there's been lots. He's emphasizing the fact that even there's still another day that's damp and chilly, on yet another. So that word yet is emphasizing, like, he can't really believe that there's still another day of damp and chilly weather, because it's supposed to be warmer now in this season of spring, summer, moving into summer. It's supposed to be warmer, but he's saying on yet another, like I can't believe it. That's kind of like a word that you use to give emphasis. Because he could leave it out and just say on another, but it's like on yet another. I can't even believe there's still another day that's going to be wet and cold, and that's why he's thinking about Australia, because Australia is warm and sunny, and he's been living in England right now, and he can't believe that it's just another day is going to be cold and rainy and chilly. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a word, in this case right here, to add emphasis. Like I said, you can leave it out on another, but on yet another day. It's just another word to add emphasis to how incredible it is that so many days are rainy. Because a lot of people feel that way about places like England. You know, it's like you can hardly believe it's going to keep raining, especially at a time in the year where it should be, because it's supposed to be warmer in summertime. It should be sunny, or at least some people expect it to be. He's expecting it or wanting it to be. Okay. I smile wistfully at the news that the Paris-based Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development has determined yet again, so there's that word again, yet again, it's added emphasis, yet again, that Australia is the happiest country in the developed world. All right. Okay, Beatriz?
I smile wistfully at the news that the Paris-based Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development has determined, yet again, that Australia is the happiest country in the developed world.
Yeah, the happiest country. Okay, he smiles wistfully. Wistfully is kind of similar to longingly. It describes an emotion that you feel when you want something, but it seems very far away, like you're remembering it, but it's not your reality right now. And so you kind of wish you're just remembering it again and you want it to happen. So apparently this organization, it's the OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. There's a bunch of countries that belong to that organization, and every year, I guess, they make a list of different things that people consider important to happiness, and then they see which countries have those things. So that's what the rest of this is going to be about. So this is the third year running that my adopted land has won this distinction, beating out the rest of the OECD's 34 member states, plus Russia and Brazil, in the organization's annual Better Life Index survey. Okay, Goliath.
This is the third year running that my adopted land has won this distinction, beating out the rest of the OECD's 34 member states plus Russia and Brazil in the organization's annual Better Life Index survey.
Mm-hmm. Good. So this is the third year running. That means ongoing. So for the last 3 years, Australia, which he's describing as his adopted land, so he's not from Australia, but that's where he has adopted as his home country, has won this distinction. A distinction is like when you give somebody a special reward, it's a distinction. So it's something special. And they beat out, so there's a phrasal verb there, to beat out the rest of the countries or the other countries, including Russia and Brazil. And this is what it's in, this Better Life Index survey, which there's a link there if somebody wants to click on it later. You can go read more about that.
Beating out means defeating?
Yes, they won. Yeah, to win. Yeah. When you beat out other teams or other competitors or something, it means you win. Yeah. Okay. Annual means every year, so it's the organization's annual, and they use the apostrophe S there to say that it belongs to the organization, this annual survey. Okay. The United States, where I was born and raised, finished in 6th place, while Britain, where I have been spending time lately, came in 10th. The survey took into account 11 different economic, health, environmental, and lifestyle parameters that are reckoned to contribute to happiness. Okay, Hamid.
The United States, where I was born and raised, finished in the 60th place, while Britain, where I have been spending time lately, came in 10th. The survey took into account 11 different economic, health, environmental, and lifestyle parameters and are reckoned to contribute to happiness.
Yeah. So this word, you say parameters, and reckoned, and contribute. So the United States, so he's born and raised there, so that's a common phrase that we say. If somebody says, where are you from? You could say, well, I was born and raised in California, but now I'm living in Washington. So it's usually a phrase that you use when you want to tell somebody that you're not living in the same place where you are from. Okay, so he's not living there anymore. He's actually living in Britain, but earlier in the article he said he has an Australian passport, so now he must be an Australian citizen. All right, he's been spending time in Britain. All right, they took into account. When you take something into account, that is a phrase that means to consider. So these are the things that they were considering, they were looking at. So when you take something into account or somebody into account, it means you consider them. That's what you're looking at. And the parameters are just the different economic parameters, health parameters. Those are like the elements or the details of the situation in each country. So what is the economic situation in a country? What is the health situation? Those are the different parameters. And they are reckoned, so they are believed. So this word we could say they are believed.
So
yeah, go ahead.
I reckon means I believe.
Yeah, I reckon. Yeah, you could say that. It means I believe. So these are the things that are believed to contribute, to add to, or to make up what we call happiness. So if you have a good economy, your people are healthy, the environment is clean, then presumably that is believed to help people be happy, versus if you have a bad economy or poor health conditions, things like that would not be contributing to happiness. It would be contributing to perhaps depression or sadness or something else. Okay? All right. After the OECD ground the numbers through the data mill, Australia, Sweden, and Canada finished 1, 2, 3. So why are Australians so happy, aside from obvious things like having so many lovely beaches close at hand and all that sunshine? Yeah. Okay, Javier.
Okay. After the OECD ground the numbers through the data mill, Australia, Sweden, and Canada finished 1, 2, 3. So why are Australians so happy, aside from obvious things like having so many lovely beaches close at hand and all that sunshine?
Yeah, all that sunshine. Okay, so when you grind something through a mill, that's you put it through, that's just an expression, kind of like an older expression, because we don't really grind things through mills too much on a regular basis by ourselves. That used to happen when people would grind corn to make corn flour, or wheat to make wheat flour.
Coffee.
But coffee is more common. You might do that every day. But when you grind something through the mill, so the data, it's expression that says when they basically work through all the data. So when they sift, you could also, the expression sift through.
Means analyze. Analyze.
Yeah, exactly. So when they analyze and they look at all of those numbers of all the data that they gathered, that's what it means. Then they rank different countries, and so these are the countries that came in first, second, and third. But why are they so happy? He's asking that question because aside from, so that is an expression that means like beside these things, like something else. So aside from the obvious things that people know about Australia, people know that they have lots of nice beaches that are very close to the cities and close to where people live, and there's a lot of sunshine. But what else is important? Why is Australia number one or ranked number one? Well, the economy may have a little something to do with it. While the rest of the developed world has been wallowing in recession and austerity these past few years, Australia has been booming along in splendid sunburnt isolation, thanks in part to its vast mineral wealth and the insatiable demand in Asia, especially China, for energy and raw materials. As of this year, Australia's economy is starting its 21st consecutive year of growth. Wow. Okay. Hi, Nguyen. Nguyen? I don't know if I'm saying Nguyen Lee. Hey there. Oh, I don't know. Hi, Nia. Okay, she's dropped out. Oh, cool. How are you? You gonna read that part, please?
Okay.
All right.
World economy may have a little something to do with it. While the rest of the developed world has been wallowing in recession and austerity these past few years, Australia has been booming along in splendid sunburnt isolation, thanks in part to its vast mineral wealth and the insatiable
Insatiable, yeah.
insatiable demand in Asia, especially China, for energy and raw materials. As of this year, Australia's economy is starting its 21st consecutive year of growth.
Yeah. Okay, so this word you say, when you get big words like that, you can just break them up into syllables. So it's consecutive. So it actually has 4 syllables. Consecutive year of growth. Okay, so yeah, so one of the things that they were taking into consideration for this survey is the economy and how, because of course the economy affects your life, whether or not you are able to find a job, whether or not you can make enough money to support yourself and maybe your family. So that's an important part of happiness, is having enough money to live your life. So he says that may have a little something to do with it. So that's a common expression that we use if somebody asks you, why is this happening? You could say, well, it may have a little something to do with, and then you could say the fact that or something. So it just means that the economy is important in this regard, while the rest of the world has been wallowing in. So when you are wallowing in something, in this case it's the recession, so the declining or the slowing down of the economy, lots of people losing their jobs and that kind of stuff. If you're wallowing in it, it means like you're staying in it. You're not moving. You're not moving out of it. You're not moving forward. You're just staying there in it.
Steady.
Yeah, it's kind of steady. And a lot of times it's also kind of a sense of sadness. It's something that is not necessarily positive. So a lot of times you hear this word to wallow in, like your sadness, or to wallow in depression. It's when you keep thinking about the same problems that you have. So in this case, the economy is still not moving forward. So it's staying stuck. Exactly. Yeah. And you guys probably hear about austerity. So there's the recession, which is the economy, and then there's the austerity measures. Usually you hear the two together. Austerity measures, those are the things that the governments are trying to do to maybe not spend so much money, or that people have to do in their own personal budgets not to spend money they don't have, for example. So that's been happening for several years now in certain countries around the world, many countries. But Australia, they're booming along. So that means they are actually doing well. To be booming, use that word, it means you're doing well. If the economy is booming, it means it's growing, people are making money, people are buying things. Yeah.
Flourishing.
Yeah. And so he says splendid sunburnt isolation. So that's a kind of couple of funny words there. So splendid just means wonderful. Sunburnt, that of course he's referring to the people getting sunburnt there because of so much sun. And isolations. Australia is pretty isolated compared to many countries around the world. It's a big island kind of out in the middle of nowhere. So that's why it's described as isolated. It's not like, France or Spain or Portugal or Germany, which is right next to many other countries. This one is by itself. So isolated means by itself. And the reason why they've been doing well is because they have vast mineral. Vast means large amount, big amount. So huge amounts of mineral wealth. So things that they're taking out of the earth. And China, it sounds like Asia, but also especially has an insatiable demand. So if you describe something as insatiable, it means that you can't satisfy it. Yeah, exactly. You can't satisfy it. You keep wanting more and more. So China, as we know, is the largest populated country in the world. So they obviously have huge demand for things like energy. And so it seems insatiable, like they're never going to have enough. All right. So that's really helping them. And then this last word here, consecutive years. So consecutive means after the others. So 21st, that means every year for 21 years, they've been growing every year. Consecutive years the next year. Or, the next year and the next year and the next year. That's the consecutive. All right. Unemployment at 5.5% is among the lowest of the OECD nations, while the minimum wage at nearly $16 an hour is double that in the United States. Australia's credit rating has been given a solid AAA by all three of the major credit ratings agencies, making it one of only 8 countries worldwide to be a member of the gilt-edged 9A's Club. Alas, neither the U.S. nor Britain are members anymore. Okay. Let's see. Where were we? Okay, Alexei.
Unemployment at 5.5% is among the lowest of the OECD nations, while the minimum wage at nearly $16 an hour is double that in the United States. Australia's credit rating has been given a solid AAA by all three of the major credit ratings agencies, making it one of only 8 countries worldwide to be a member of the gilt-edged 9's Club. Alas, neither the US nor Britain are members anymore.
Yeah. Okay. So that's pretty good. At 5.5%, that's a low unemployment rate there. In fact, it's among the lowest. This is an interesting statement here. While the minimum wage at nearly $16 an hour is double that in the United States. So it's a little bit confusing the way he wrote it, but what he's meaning is that $16 an hour is double what the minimum wage is in the United States. So what he's saying is the minimum wage in areas in the United States is probably only eight. In the United States, the minimum is different for every state. So I think, for example, it's something like, I don't know, maybe $9.15. But $16 an hour is a very good wage for a person. And that's the minimum, so they're making even more. Other people doing other above minimum wage jobs, you call them. And so they have good credit, too. Some of you may know about the credit rating for countries and how they get their ratings and if they're reliable for paying back their debts and things like that, which has been a problem in the world economy. Some countries have been losing their ratings and they've been going down because they are not able to make payments on their debts and things like that. So the gilt edged, the gilt is gilded like the gold. So it's a very what's the word? It's kind of like only a select group of people. So it's a very highly selective group of countries that can be members in this club. So that's what that is referring to. Very selective. Not even the U.S. or Britain are members in anymore. So maybe they were at one time, but now because of their economic problems, they are no longer part of this elite kind of club that is able to have the high ratings. Yeah. So while so many of the major banks and lending houses in the U.S. and Europe collapsed or required multi-billion-dollar bailouts in the domino-like fallout from the banking-led recession, not a single Australian one did. All of the big Australian banks sailed through these tricky waters free and clear. Okay, Beatriz?
Okay. Why so many of the major banks and lending houses in the US and Europe collapsed or required multi-billion dollars bailouts in the domino-like bailout from the banking-led recession? Not a single Australian one did. All of the big Australian banks sailed through these tricky waters free and clear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's pretty amazing. So the lending houses, those are the banks or other types of places that give people loans. So they lend money to businesses usually. They collapsed. They basically, a lot of them went out of business. They became bankrupt or they had to be bailed out. So there were lots of bailouts. That means the government had to come in and help pay off their debts and things like that. And it's a domino-like fallout. So the domino effect is when you put up those little dominoes and you push one over, then they all start falling over. That's called the domino effect. So they had the fallout from this recession. But in Australia, it sounds like they sailed through. So that means they weathered the storm, they could say, or they just basically got through it. They didn't have any problems. So they sailed through. It means it was easy for them through these tricky waters. So tricky waters is referring to the difficult times that were happening with the banks. And they sailed through it free and clear. It just means they had no problems. They didn't have the same problems that these other countries had with their banking system. On the economic basis alone, if you're an Australian, enjoying your alfresco lunch at a sun-drenched sidewalk cafe in Melbourne and reading all these troubled financial headlines from faraway places, recession, taxpayer-funded bailout packages, job losses, and grim austerity measures, you're likely quite happy that you live where you do. Okay, Goliath?
On the economic basis alone, if you are an Australian enjoying your al-fresco lunch at a sun-drenched sidewalk cafe in Melbourne, and reading all these troubled financial headlines from faraway places, recession, taxpayer-funded bailout packages, job losses, and grim austerity measures, you're likely quite happy that you live where you do.
Yeah. So if you're not experiencing all these problems that other people are, he's basically saying that you must feel pretty happy to be where you are because you don't have to deal with all of that. Al fresco just means outside, out in the fresh air. So that's where you're having your lunch. Sun-drenched. So again, he's just referring to the sunshine that you get when you are in Australia. It's a very sunny place. And troubled headlines, that just means basically the headlines are talking about all of the problems that these other countries are having with their economies. Yeah. But it was more than just a strong economy and robust banking system that put Australia at the top of the ladder in the happiness stakes and kept it there these past 3 years. Healthcare, low crime rates, a clean environment, education, civic engagement, and a longer than average life expectancy were also factored into the score. Okay. Hamid? Hamid?
But it was more.
Oh. Something's happening with your microphone. It's kind of going in and out. Try again. Can't hear you. Okay, I'm going to go to Javier, and then I'm going to come back to you. Hamid, maybe there's a slowing of your connection or something. Javier, will you read, please?
Okay. But it was more than just a strong economy and robust banking system that put Australia at the top of the ladder in the happiness stakes and keep it there these past 3 years. Healthcare, low crime rates and clean environment, education, civic engagement, and longer than average life expectancy were also factored into the score.
Yep. Okay, good. So it's not just the strong economy and robust banking system. So the word robust means
Strong.
so strong, exactly. So it's doing well. It's not just that put them at the top of the ladder. So the top of the ladder they're referring to as being number 1 in this survey. Happiness stakes. So when you talk about the stakes of something, it's the things that you're considering that make you happy. So you can also hear phrases like the stakes are very high. That just means the thing's very important. So this is referring, the stakes are what you're looking at to describe if something is happy or not. So it's the element.
Means reasons.
Yeah, the reasons. Yeah, good. And kept there. Okay, so they've been there or kept it there. So that's where they've stayed. So they have good health care, low crime. This word right here is crime with the long I sound, crime. Crime rate, so it's very, not very many. The crime rate tells you like how many murders happened this year, that kind of thing. Those are the rates. Or other violent crimes and things like that. They have a good environment. Civic engagement refers to the citizens of the country engaging in politics. So some countries, some citizens don't really do much, and then in other countries they do. And so in Australia, civic refers to governmental. So there's lots of people who are interested in the government and the running of probably the local governments and the national government also.
Can we say here awareness, civic awareness? They are aware.
Not exactly. Engagement is actually when you do something. So when you are engaged in something, it means you're actually doing it. So that means here it could refer to the number of people who actually vote. That's actually doing something. Or it could refer, it probably means that. Civic engagement is if you have lots of people voting, and if you have people who are concerned about the issues about in their city or in their country, and they do something, they might be active in government. That's what it's referring to. If you just have awareness, civic awareness, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're very active. It means that you know what's happening, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing something. But engagement means you are doing something. So it refers to actual action. So voting, giving your opinion to your government, writing letters to your representatives, telling them how you feel about certain laws that are going to be passed, things like that. That's what it means. And longer than average life expectancy. So expectancy refers to how long you think you're going to live. So perhaps they're basically saying that the people in Australia live longer. So these were all the things that were factored into the score. So these are all the things that were taken into account or put into the information, and then you come out with a score for each country. All right, so let's go here. Surprisingly, or at least surprising to those who haven't lived or worked in Australia, and imagine a certain kind of breezy laid-back, endless summer lifestyle, Australia scored lowest on average working hours. 1 in 7 Australian workers puts in more than 50 hours a week, far in excess of the OECD norm. Australians have always been hard workers. Okay, Hamid, do you want to try your mic again? I don't know what's going on with the microphone. I heard you when you first started, but then it stopped. So let's just go with Otku. Why don't you read?
Okay. Surprisingly, or at least surprising to those who haven't lived or worked in Australia, and imagine a certain kind of breezy, laid-back, endless summer lifestyle. Australia scored lowest on average working hours. 1 in 7 Australian workers puts in more than 50 hours a week, far in excesses of the OECD norm. Australians have always been hard workers.
Yeah.
Workers.
Yeah. So surprisingly, that means, you use that word to describe that it is a surprise that you found out about this information. But yeah, so a lot of people might think that Australia is a very easy, that's what it means, a breezy, like, oh, easy to live there, it's laid back. That means that people are very chilled out, they're not stressed out, they're very easygoing. That's what laid back means. And that there's an endless summer, so you're always in summer. You don't have a winter to deal with, cold weather, rain, snow. And that's the kind of lifestyle that they have. But in fact, what he's saying is they actually are hard workers. They work a lot. In fact, they work far in excess. So that means much more than the norm, which is like what the regular average is in these other countries. So he's basically saying that Australians work long hours and they work hard. So 50 hours a week. In the United States, the normal full-time hours is 40 hours per week. Of course, some people work a lot more than that, and some people work less. But that's the general rule of thumb, 40 hours per week in the United States. The stereotypical easygoing Aussie larrikin is, as a cheeky fellow is known, may be there all right on the surface, but he or she is fortified by a core of steel. Just ask any of the world's sporting teams that have been steamrolled by their ruthless Australian opponents over the years. Okay, Beatriz.
The stereotypical easygoing Aussie larrikin, as a cheeky fellow is known, maybe they're all right on the surface, but he or she is fortified by a core of steel. Just ask any of the world's sporting teams that have been steamrolled by their ruthless Australian opponents over the years.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I put over in the Verbling chat some definitions of the larrikin. So it's basically, there's a stereotype. So when you have a stereotype, you say, oh, all of those people are like this. So that's the stereotype. Of course, in the United States, we have had a history where people stereotype African American people or Native American people. A lot of cultures, you do it when you're thinking about somebody else and you think, oh, they're all like this, and then that's called stereotyping. So the stereotype of an easygoing Aussie larrikin, kind of a mischievous youth person, as a cheeky fellow. Cheeky means kind of like mischievous and does things that might be kind of risky. So he's saying, yeah, there's certainly people like that, but that's on the surface. That means that's just what you see on the outside. But underneath, what they're really made of, he says, is fortified. When you fortify something, you make it stronger. So they have a core of steel. So even though outside the guys might look really easygoing, they actually are very hardworking, and they say ruthless. And they got they steam other their opponents. So he's basically saying, yeah, even though we might look happy and easygoing, these Australians are very strong, and they have they're ruthless. That means that they are going to beat you in sports. He's talking about. So they're strong. They're not babies. Winning and success is what helps make them happy. They are more than willing to put in the hours to get what they want, and then spend the rewards and their downtime on living their lives to the fullest. In this, they are very broad-minded. Okay, Goliath.
Winning and success is what helps make them happy. They are more than willing to put in the hours to get what they want, and then spend the rewards and their downtime on living their lives to the fullest. In this, they are very broad-minded.
So they like to win, they like to have success, and they are more than willing. So that means they really are willing. That's what that more than means. So they will happily work hard to get what they need to do, what they need to do to win or to succeed in something. But then he says they like to spend their rewards and their downtime. So your downtime, it's also called like your free time. So they live their lives to the fullest. To the fullest means they have a good time. They're very broad-minded about this. Broad, a large means like very wide. So they're open-minded, broad-minded. They're not closed-minded. So the opposite of broad-minded would be narrow-minded or very closed-minded. My 20-year-old daughter Laura is just such an Australian, working incredibly long hours doing tough physical labor at high pay, working the grape harvest and vintage at one of the South Australian wineries near where she grew up. After several months of ceaseless toil, when the last of the harvest has been bottled, she packs her bags, scoops up her savings, and heads off to see a bit more of the world, confident in her ability to get another job when she returns. Okay, Javier?
Okay. My 20 years old daughter Lara is just such in Australia, working incredibly long hours doing tough physical hours at high pay, working the grape harvest and vintage at one of the South Australian wineries near where she grew up. After several months of ceaseless toil, when the last of the harvest had been bottled, she packs her bag, scoops up her savings, and heads off to see a bit more of the world, confident in her ability to get another job when she returns.
So there's quite a few things here. So she's working incredibly long. So a sentence here, incredibly, he's using that as to add emphasis, like really long hours. So incredibly, it's like he's just emphasizing the fact that she is working very hard. She's doing tough physical labor. So tough means hard. So she's using her strength, her body to work. But of course, it's at high pay because the minimum wage is $16 at least. So she's getting a good pay. She's working in the grape harvest and vintage. So this is all about making wine. So wineries near where she grew up. Several months of ceaseless toil. Ceaseless means unending or you're not stopping. So when you're working in farming like this, there's a certain season, and you have to work really hard during that season. So it might be a couple of months or so. And so that's what he's talking about, ceaseless. So it's non-stop toil. Toil refers to work or hard work even. But he says when it's done, so the harvest has been bottled, she packs her bags. So that's putting her clothes in her bag. She's leaving. She scoops up. So that means to pick up or to get her savings. And she heads off. That means she leaves. goes to see a bit more of the world. And she wants to go have fun. So that's where she's going to enjoy her rewards. She worked hard during the season. Now she's going to go have some fun. And she's confident that she'll be able to get another job because that's what he's been saying, that Australia is a growing economy, so she'll be able to get one when she comes back, when she returns. She's been doing this for 3 years now. In fact, she flies to London tomorrow morning. How much longer she'll continue this footloose lifestyle is anyone's guess, but one thing is certain. When she does finally settle down to pursue a career, no Australian job interviewer is going to raise a censorious eyebrow at the gaps in her CV or resume, as employers would likely do in the US or Britain. Chances are the conversation would segue into travel and did you get to so-and-so, and is that little bar at such and such still going? Okay. Who went last? Javier, is it your turn?
No, I read.
Okay, sorry. Otku, it's your turn.
Okay. She has been doing this for 3 years now. In fact, she flies to London tomorrow morning. How much longer she'll continue this footloose lifestyle is anyone's guess. But one thing is certain. When she does finally settle down to pursue a career, no Australian job interviewer is going to raise a
Censorious
eyebrow at the gaps in her CV or resume, as employers would like to in the US or Britain. Chances are the conversation would segue into travel. And did you get to so and so? And is that little bar at such and such still going?
Yeah. Okay, good. So she's been doing it for a while, and he says he doesn't know how much longer she'll continue this footloose lifestyle. So that's type of lifestyle where you are not tied down to a place. You get to just move around and do what you want to do. But one thing is certain, so one thing is for sure, that when she does want to pursue, so that means when she wants to go after a career, so she wants to actually change a career, maybe she wants to be a teacher, or she wants to be a programmer, who knows, but a career where you go to work more regularly all throughout the year. They're not going to raise a censorious eyebrow. So he's referring to censorious means censor. So they're not going to say, oh, she has these gaps in her resume, we're not going to talk to her, which is, he's saying, might happen in the US or Britain because they might think that you were just being lazy. Instead, people will probably ask you a question, and it will segue into. Segue into means it will lead into. So it will lead to a conversation about traveling, and did you go so-and-so, did you see such and such, place like that. So so-and-so and such is what we say when we're referring to something that's not, we don't know the name of it, we're not referring to something particular, but it's just like, oh yeah, he said blah, 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 or she was referring to so-and-so did this. So it's kind of like general. It's not really referring to a specific person or thing. There is a lovely tolerance down under and a wonderfully healthy attitude about life and living. And when you couple all that with so many other things that are going their way, not to mention all the sunshine and wide open spaces, it is small wonder Australians are happy. Okay, Alice, will you read that last paragraph for us?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. There is a lovely tolerance down under, a wonderfully healthy attitude about life and living. And when you couple all that with so many other things that are going their way, not to mention all the sunshine and wide open spaces, it is small wonder Australians are happy.
Yeah. So they have a lovely tolerance. So That means that they are very tolerant of people, they're very easygoing, and he's describing that as lovely. So it's a nice thing that they are able to be so laid back or easygoing. Down under is how people refer to in English to Australia. It's down under, so it's below like the equator. It's
Yeah.
that's whenever you say down under, you know you're talking about Australia.
Lisa,
Yeah,
it's
it's
Australia
interesting.
and
In
New
New
Zealand.
Zealand, yes, exactly. Yeah, the New Zealand is a much smaller country, but yes, it's similar. It's same area, yeah. And they have a healthy attitude about life and living. So, like he said, they work hard, but they know how to have fun too. And when you couple all that, so when you put that
All
means when you
together.
couple, yeah, you put all of this information together. That you see that they have a lot of things going their way. That means a lot of things that are positive in their lives. So if something is going your way, it means it's working for you. It's
Oh, it's
healthy for
great
you.
to live in Australia.
It sounds like it, huh? I've never been there. And of course, the sunshine is also mentioned. So this is, they have all these other good things, but of course, we don't want to mention there's still a lot of sunshine there, which is a lot can make you very happy, especially if you've come from other places where it can be very cold or rainy most of the year. And they have a lot of wide open spaces. Some countries are very populated and you don't have a lot of nature left in the country. Australia is a very open, natural environment. Of course, much of it is probably too hot to live in, but a lot of people still, it's beautiful, and they enjoy going there to visit it. So it is a small wonder. So wonder means it's not so surprising. That's what that phrase means. Like no wonder, they are very happy. So yeah.
Lisa,
So
Lisa,
yes,
I have a question.
sure.
When will be the next flight to Australia? You just convinced me.
Right. Yes. Yeah, and I wonder how easy it is to become a citizen of Australia or to get a work permit or something there, because of course what happens is some countries they might be wonderful to live in, but it can be difficult for people, foreigners, that want to go there and visit or work and live there. Sometimes it can be difficult, but I don't know. I wonder what it's like for Australia, if it would be possible for people from other countries to just go and live there.
They have problem when they travel. They always are jet logged.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
I read that they were less females than males. So, yeah, if some
Really?
female
it's interesting.
wants to get married, then she should travel to Australia.
Well, that's certainly one of the ways that people get citizenship is getting married to somebody.
Oh, yeah.
This way.
Yeah. So I'm gonna put here. If people are interested, this is actually the website that lists. I didn't look for the list, but it would be interesting if you're curious where your country is and then why, because I think the different countries are ranked differently depending on certain parameters or certain subjects. So some countries might be ranked very high for health, life expectancy, if you live a long time, but maybe they have a lower ranking for their jobs, situation, things like that.
Yeah,
Goliath, yes?
there is another parameter. I don't know if I remember. It's a big country and they have only 22 or 23 billion population and inhabitants.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think somebody, if you go to the link that's on the bottom of the document, that's the actual page on the website where I got that, and then people are commenting. So I read a few of the comments, and somebody did mention that it's hard to compare countries that are so big and have big land mass, but only have a few people, like Australia, versus other countries that are smaller and they have a lot more people. So that is one factor too, for sure. And some people were saying that, an Australian person said that she thought that the government was going the way of some other countries that people corporations were becoming more greedy, and that there was going to be more of a gap between like the rich people and the middle class and the poor people. So that might be changing, she was saying, in Australia. So where it's good now, and it has been pretty good, if it goes the way that other countries have gone, separating those classes of people so much, it might not be good for Australia. So, like, it's not good for other countries too. Yeah. Yeah. Alice, where are you from?
I'm from Slovakia.
Oh, okay.
It's in Europe, Central Europe.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Great. All right. Well, if you guys want to check out your country, you can see where it rates, and then of course you can decide for yourself: are you happy? And what makes you happy? We didn't have time to talk about it because we're out of time here, but maybe we'll have another speaking class where we talk about the idea of what makes you happy and how do we define happiness.
When will be this class?
I will not have another class, I think, until Sunday. So next week. So I don't work anymore this week. Okay.
Thanks for the class.
You, teacher.
You're welcome. Thank you guys for coming. Okay,
bye
take care. Have a good weekend. Okay, bye-bye. Hi, everybody. This is Lisa, and it's time again for another Verbling class. And in this hour, we're going to be having a reading class. So if you are interested in practicing reading out loud and also discussing an article, then this will be a good class for you. Hi there, Hamid.
Hi, teacher.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Great. All right, and welcome to everybody. If you have your reservation, you can go ahead and get that now. Otherwise, you'll be able to see the Join Class button, and you can click on the Join Class button. I put the link. Somebody, I think, has the Verbling window open. If you close the Verbling window, then you won't hear my echo. So just have the Google Hangouts window open, but close the Verbling window. Okay? That's better. All right, so I'm going to put the link. That's the link. It's in the Verbling chat. This is the article that we're going to read. And it's from the National Geographic website, National Geographic, the article in the screen share, my screen share. So if you want to, you can either open the document and have it on your desktop or your laptop, whatever you're working on. And you can, that's what I do, is I leave one window open with my Google Hangouts window, and then my other window is open with the document. And that seems to work pretty good. I switch back and forth. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have 8 people in the class. There should be room for one more. So if somebody is out there trying to get in, please let me know if you don't see the Join Class button or if it says it's full, because some people have been telling me that it says it's full with only 8 people in the class plus me. But it should be 9 people. So if you want to get in, go ahead and tell me whether or not you see that Join Class button. But you do need to have tickets, which you can get different ways, but the best way is to just become a premium member. That way you get to have a lot of tickets and go to lots of classes. Okay? All right, so the way we do this is I will highlight a part that I'm going to read, and then I will ask somebody to read the same thing I just read again. So the first time when I'm reading it, that's the time for you to listen. Say hi to everybody. Make sure that your microphones are working. Hi, Aisha. How are you today? Hi, welcome. And Beatriz, how are you today?
Fine, thanks. And you?
I'm doing well, thank you. And Goliath, hi there.
Hi, Lisa. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you. And Hamid, I muted you before because I was hearing the background noise. So turn your microphone on again when you're ready to talk. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have your Verbling window open?
Yeah.
Okay. You can close your Verbling window. Just leave the Google Hangouts window open.
Okay.
Yeah, because it plays the video if you leave the Verbling window open. And hi, Javier. How are you?
Hey, hi, I'm good. You?
I'm doing well, thank you. And Otku, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you, teacher?
I'm doing well, thank you. And let's see, somebody's popping in and out. Oh, hi, Alexi. How are you? Hi there. Alexi?
Yes.
Hi there, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing great.
Okay.
Thank you for asking.
Sure. Okay, well, let's get started. I'm going to put is a popular magazine here in the United States, and it has articles about lots of different topics, but mostly cultural, about the world, about science, geography, and National Geographic articles are generally well written, and so if you are a person that's interested in exposing yourself to a little bit higher level reading and also somewhat academic reading, then National Geographic can be a good choice, and they have a lot of articles online for free on their website. And so I took one off of there and I put it into this Google document so we can read this together today. It's actually about happiness and ranking countries in a certain way, and I guess this is done every year, so we're going to read about that. And then after we finish, we can talk about it and talk about our own countries and what we think about this article and if we agree or disagree or have some other thoughts. So in this class, you will be listening to me read. You will be reading out loud. Each person is going to have a turn, and then we will be speaking, discussing a little bit the article. Okay, so let me listen to me and how I'm pronouncing the words and just see if you can understand by just using your ears. You can also read along with your eyes, but it's really a good time to just listen as well to see if you hear the individual words and understand them. And then we'll have each student read, and I will go through some vocabulary that I think might be worthwhile for you guys to make sure you understand. Excuse me. Okay, so let's get started. The title of this article is called First Person. I think that means in National Geographic they have kind of like an ongoing theme where it's written in first person. So if you say that you're writing something in first person, that means you are writing it with I. So you said, I went to the store yesterday to buy something. You're telling the story as the first person rather than talking about somebody else, like she went to the store. Okay, so this is a guy writing about this, and he's writing, happiness is being an Aussie. So an Aussie is a person from Australia. And he says, yet again, Australia tops the list of happiest countries. And this